What's going on, traders? We are back with another weekly Forex forecast. I am FX Telepath. I've been trading for over 6 years, so in my opinion, you guys are all in the right place, and let's get right into this week's Forex forecast. As far as the DXY goes, the US dollar, we are reacting off of weekly demand and a monthly demand zone as well. We did pierce below the weekly zone, just barely. I'm not going to call that removed. I'm not going to get into why, but as far as this chart goes, it is a little bit difficult to read because we have a weekly downward trend line now because we did break the low there. And that is definitely a bearish sign. But as far as supply and demand zone trading goes, we have a monthly demand in control, and monthly demand is stronger than a weekly downward trend line. So we have to kind of be bullish on the dollar. And as far as the lower time frames go, let's take a look at what we are seeing. On the daily chart, a couple weeks ago, we did remove this area of demand. It was a proven area of demand as we did get a reaction off of it before. Look at this daily downward trend line and look at this daily supply at 98.33. In my opinion, that is where I think we are headed. And I personally think we will be reacting off of this zone to the downside. The question is, how big of a move are we going to get off of this supply? Since the monthly demand is in control, I'm actually expecting this to break just based off of the rules of supply and demand, multiple time frame analysis. I'm expecting this supply and the daily downward trend line to break. But it doesn't mean we won't see somewhat of a reaction off of this daily supply. I think we will see a reaction off of it, and then eventually we'll most likely be breaking it. That is what I'm predicting. We'll have to obviously, stay tuned for a couple weeks from now when we do see what's taking place here. But for now, I am bearish the dollar as far as when we hit the daily supply. I'm actually bullish the dollar until we hit the daily supply. So on the 1 hour chart, it's very evident of what was taking place. We had a very nice 1 hour trend line to the upside. That trend line was just recently removed here on Friday. So what we are looking for now is to see if this high can be removed, which will continue the 1 hour upward trend line. And then, in my opinion, we will be pushing up to that daily area of supply. We do have an older 1 hour supply over here, clearly basing out right before it. I think we could see a small move off of it at 98.02, but ultimately, if we do break the high, I think we're clearly headed up to that daily supply that I was talking about at 98.33. And another option that I think is possible, a little bit less likely, is maybe we get, since the 1 hour trend line broke, it is evidence to suggest we could be going lower for sure. What I think is possible, not really likely, I just want to point it out just in case we do continue to see the dollar weaken this week. Maybe we're going to be pulled back to this 4 hour demand zone at 96.55 and then maybe pull up to that daily supply that I was referring to. But ultimately, until we get to this daily supply, I'm going to be bullish on the dollar. And then once we hit the daily supply, then I'll be bearish for a bit. And then if we break it and break the trend line, then, in my opinion, the monthly demand is holding and we're going to continue to go up on the DXY. Alrighty, on to the forecast for the Euro US dollar. You can see on the daily time frame, we do have a daily demand here. I really don't love the zone, if I'm being honest. I'm actually just going to extend it just a little bit. I'm having a hard time with the zone. I really don't love it. I actually prefer it like that now. But at 117, that is our daily zone. And the highest odd situation for the euro right now would be to wait for this daily demand zone to be hit and to look for longs on a lower time frame inside of that daily area of demand. So that is the highest odd situation. However, let me show you a couple potential setups here. On the 4 hour chart, we do have a 4 hour zone at 117. That could be a set and forget trade. It's not bad. I think the zone's pretty good. Clearly getting some sort of liquidity here, some sort of support forming, which is great because I don't trade support and resistance. I trade supply and demand. So in my opinion, if there is support here, which it does look like, there's going to be some stop losses here right into our zone. So I think that's a pretty decent potential set and forget trading setup there on the Euro US dollar. And if you guys are enjoying this video so far, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. I don't run mid-video ads on my videos. I can't stand when channels do that. I personally pay for YouTube Premium, but I know most of you guys are not, so I don't run any ads in the middle of the video, guys. So if you guys appreciate that, maybe hit the like button and subscribe if you want to continue to watch these forecasts. So that's our 4 hour demand zone setup on the euro. And again, the highest odd situation would be to wait for the daily demand zone to be hit and then look for a confirmation trade on a 1 hour chart. However, the 1 hour chart is actually looking pretty interesting, I will admit. We did have a 1 hour downward trend line. That downward trend line was removed on Friday. And if you look, we created a 1 hour demand zone right below. And so you could be playing both supply and demand here. It is tricky because, again, the daily demand is sitting just below all of this. So I think we could actually see this 1 hour zone break. So at this point, if you want to trade at this 1 hour zone at 117, you definitely can. It's a very nice explosive move away. The basing is good. So if you want to trade at the zone, I think being aggressive with trade management would make more sense, meaning don't get greedy with it. Don't look for a massive trade. At most, I would look for a move up to the opposing supply at 118. At most. I wouldn't be getting greedy. So another thing you could do for trade management is when the zone gets hit, if you get long in the zone and you see it push up, maybe move your stop to half risk or to break even. Just because, again, I think we could be breaking it to pull back to that daily demand and then getting the reaction off of it. So I think being somewhat aggressive with trade management off of this 1 hour zone could be worth it. And what I would like to see for this supply above is something like this. Maybe we push up, react off of the resistance, proving to us that there is liquidity here with retail stop losses right into our supply. We can then get a move down. So I do like this 1 hour supply zone setup. The move away is really good. I like the liquidity. And I like the fact that if we do get in short at this zone, it is a big zone. However, there's clear profit margin down to that daily demand, and it could be used to push price down to that daily demand. So a couple decent zones here on the euro US dollar. Trade accordingly. Make sure you guys pay attention to what I was saying about the trade management. Alrighty, on to the forecast for gold. On the weekly chart, the manipulation is so clear. Clearly, people trading on margin here got margin called, and I've never seen price action like this on gold ever in my trading career. I mean, I've only been trading for 6 years and a little bit more, but I know it's a long time compared to most of you, but it's really not that long, but this has been crazy on gold. I think it's possible gold trends down for a couple years and maybe even pulls back below 3,500. This dotted line here is a monthly demand zone, and that is definitely a possibility. As far as the lower time frames go, I've been telling the members of my group, guys, it hasn't been great for trading gold. If you guys have been paying attention to my forecast, we caught that daily demand zone trade right there, picture perfect, but there hasn't been anything else here. It's just been so whippy, massive manipulation here, manipulation there. I mean, we did react off of a trend line pretty good, but I just don't know what to be doing here on gold. I don't see any zones that I would feel comfortable trading at, me personally. So in my opinion, the only thing we really can do on gold right now is wait, and what we're going to wait for is on this 1 hour chart. If we can break this 1 hour high right here or break the low, we will have a trend. So if we break the high, we will have an H1 trend to the upside. If we break the low, we will have an H1 trend to the downside. And then at that point, you want to be trading with that trend. But for now, we are clearly going sideways. We did have a trend line to the downside, and that broke. Me personally, I would rather be waiting for a push up due to the fact that the weekly and the daily are both trending up as well. So if we do get a 1 hour trend line to the upside, that would be preferred because it's with the higher time frame trends. And let's say we do push up and we continue to go up. We do have a supply level up at 54.01. It's not bad. I personally would avoid it. It's counter trend. It's old. The reason I'm having it on my chart still is because I want to see what removes it. So let's say we break that supply. Any demand there is going to be a nice trading setup to maybe push to the all-time highs again. But for now, guys, we just really want to be on this 1 hour chart, monitoring it, see what kind of trend we can create, and then you want to be day trading along with that trend. But for now on gold, I would be patient, guys. I haven't taken a setup on gold in quite a while because it's just been way too whippy and uncertain. And at this point, we just got to be a little bit patient, track the 1 hour chart, and wait for a trend. All right, moving on to the forecast for the S&P 500. Look at this weekly chart. What do you notice? What I notice is obviously it's an uptrend, but if you really think about it, the best trades were long, not short. Sure, we did get some moves to the downside here. This move was fantastic, but most of the money was made to the upside, which is why I personally do not short the S&P 500 ever. I only look for longs in the S&P 500. So just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a higher time frame perspective. And on the daily time frame, look at this manipulation here. We had a very clear and blatant daily upward trend line. And in my opinion, it's still holding, actually. It's not looking great, I will admit, but look at this pure manipulation here below the trend line. Most likely stopping out the trend line traders who are buying at a trend line with their stops comfortably below. And that's why we don't trade trend lines. We will trade lower time frames in trend lines with confirmation, but That's why we just don't trade trend lines, because a lot of the times you will see some sort of fake out below the trend line, and that's just pure manipulation right there. It is still bullish, in my opinion, on the S&P 500. If you look on the 1 hour chart, just here's a little story about risk to reward, the power of risk to reward. If you guys have been losing trades lately, here's a great example of why you shouldn't give up and why having a good risk to reward is very important. I called out both of these zones. So I called out this 1 hour demand zone, and that was a loss. After that demand zone was removed, we had this 1 hour supply zone, and that 1 hour supply zone trade worked out beautifully. Now, me personally, I don't short the S&P 500, but some of the members in the group did. Congrats to them who took this beautiful trading setup, called out ahead of time in the daily market breakdown video for the Diamond members. If you want to trade alongside myself and the members, join the Diamond membership, where you will have access to the 38-page supply and demand zone PDF, which will be your complete trading guide, the daily market breakdown videos, which are forecasts that I release every single night for the members to trade alongside myself, step-by-step video lessons A to Z, covering everything you need to know on supply and demand trading, the Sunday strategy Zoom session, where members submit homework, and it's an interactive 1 hour call where we go over all of your homework and every trading related question, private access to myself inside of our private Discord group where I answer all of your trading related questions, and finally the Sunday live stream forecast where we break down over 30 markets together. And it's not just me. Here are some of the members and some of their trades they've been taking lately, absolutely killing it. And we also have some amazing reviews from some of the past members sharing their experience within the group. So if you're ready to trade alongside myself and the community, join the Diamond membership today. Links in the description down below. So again, I personally didn't take this short trade, but the members did. And if I did, I personally wouldn't have gotten that entire move, that's for sure. But look at this, a loss and then a win, the power of risk to reward right there. As far as the S&P 500 goes now, we broke the 1 hour trend line and we are coming back in for a second test of our supply zone. Now, the members in my group know we don't trade at tested zones, so this is not another trading setup. At this point, we are waiting to see what removes this supply. But the good news is on the 4 hour time frame, we did create a 4 hour area of demand that removed a opposing 4 hour supply at 68.53. So if you want to trade it long, maybe potentially target the all-time high, our demand zone is down at 68.53. I like the move away. Single candle basing, love it. Single candle basings are some of my favorite zones. Sometimes you get the best reactions off of those zones, as you saw in the little short trade that we took as a group. And again, 4 hour demand zone looking good. If you don't feel comfortable with just an entry, stop, and take profit, that's fine. If you're a day trader, you could just wait for the zone to be contacted, look for confirmation on a 15-minute time frame. But at the end of the day, this is our 4 hour demand zone pullback. I like the location of it. It's sitting well below the all-time high, and I think it could be used to drive price even higher. So that's our 4 hour target zone there for a potential long trade on the S&P 500. On to the forecast for the USDJPY. I like the daily time frame. We have a very good supply zone above at 158.09 on the daily chart. I think we will react off of this supply. It's similar to the DXY supply as well. The issue is how big of a move are we going to get off of this daily supply. I still think it's reasonable to wait for the supply zone to be hit, look for a little H1 supply zone to trade, maybe get a 2-to-1, 1-to-1 trade off of it. Ultimately, I think we will react off of it, but ultimately I think we will be removing it. And why? Well, the higher time frame, the weekly chart, really shows us what is taking place. We have clear liquidity above, and it was somewhat targeted, not enough in my opinion, and I think we will be pushing up, maybe even breaking to all-time highs. So I think there is a lot of stop losses up here still, and I think we will be pushing up to there and targeting that liquidity. But again, it doesn't mean we won't see somewhat of a small move off of this daily supply, and if you're looking for shorts on a 1 hour chart, a little small move in the daily time frame could be a 2-to-1, 3-to-1 trade on the 1 hour time frame. As far as trading and then we actually have a little 4 hour supply zone set and forget entry here. A little bit risky. I think a wider stop could be good. Like somewhere up here could be a little bit safer at 157.92. The good thing about this set and forget trade is the fact that it is inside of that overall daily supply. What we could be doing in the meantime is monitoring this 1 hour chart. You can see we had a very nice 1 hour trend line. It was a little steep though, so I'm not surprised that it was removed. But I mean, right now it's very clear what's taking place. We are just in a sideways market on this 1 hour chart. So we really just want to wait for a breakout of this range. And look, I will say if this low gets broken here, we will have a 1 hour trend to the downside, and then you could actually look for shorts. I wouldn't look for shorts just yet. I would either wait for that low to be removed, then we could look for day trading shorts, or again, wait for that daily supply to be hit above and look for shorts then. The higher odds situation would be to maybe just wait for this high to be removed in the 1 hour chart. Then we will have some sort of 1 hour trend line here. I'll have to see where I'm going to draw it after. And that 1 hour trend line can act as a guide for 5-minute time frame longs with clear profit margin up to that daily supply. So on the 1 hour chart, it's all going to revolve around this high. Once it's removed, we will have a trend line, and that trend line will be used as a guide again for our 5-minute time frame longs. And then what I like about that is the fact that we have very clear profit margin up to the daily supply, where let's say you are long on a 5-minute chart, you do exactly what I say. Once the daily supply is hit, that's when I'd be looking to lock in at least 75% of the profit from that trade, or at least bump your stop loss up just in case we blast through and you can get more out of the trade. But ultimately, we got to wait for that high to be removed, create a trend, trade long the trend up to the daily supply. And then at that point, we could actually look for a quick little short trade on the 1 hour chart, but maybe that'll be for next week. Alrighty, on to the forecast for the GBPUSD. Last week, I drew a demand zone here. And one of the members was like, why is it a zone, Kev? I'm not going to get into why it's not, but he was totally right. And I just had a brain fart. Drew a zone there, but I'm just saying I did delete that area of demand. More importantly, we do have a weekly trend to the upside. So that is definitely a very bullish sign. And on the pound here on the daily chart, we had a great trend line to the upside as well on the daily time frame. So I would say it's looking pretty strong. And if you do a channel view, look at where we are at in this channel view. Pretty decent spot, right? We are pretty much below the 50% mark. Longs make sense, in my opinion. On the 4 hour chart, we had an interesting little price action here. We had a 4 hour demand zone. I was pointing out this zone to the members, but like I've been telling them, we have to have wider stops in these market conditions with Trump and everything. I don't get into politics on my channel at all, but obviously Trump, he stirs things up and markets go crazy when he is in office, and the things he says and the things he does can make the market very volatile. So that's why I was saying wider stops are preferred, especially when we have a little basing here. A stop down there makes more sense. So this zone was removed. In my opinion, this trade is still working out though, based off of having a wider stop, based off of current market conditions. So that trade has worked out. I would at least have my stop to break even at this point, because we do have a 4 hour trend line that's going to come into control in maybe the next couple days, depending on how quick we get there. So as far as trading the pound goes now, that 4 hour demand zone trade has already worked out. If you are bearish on the pound, the good news is we have a very nice downward channel here, downward trend line, and we're above the 50% mark. So if you're bearish, you definitely could justify looking for 15-minute time frame shorts as long as this downward trend line's holding. And again, we are above the 50% mark of the channel, so it's actually looking pretty decent for shorts. Why I think we could break it is because we do have a 4 hour supply above at 1.37. It is, my opinion, is the zone that removed that demand, even though that trade is still working out, like I said, for reasons that I already gave. So let's say you don't get a 50-minute setup, whatever. Let's say we break this trend line. We want to hold off on shorts until we hit this supply. Then we could maybe get a short trade off of it. And again, it is counter trend to the weekly and the daily upward trend. So if you do get in short at this zone, I would be aggressive with trade management, meaning look for a 1-to-1, maybe a 1-to-2 max. Or if you get a small move like this, I'd maybe move my stop from above the zone to half risk or to break even, just because, again, the higher time frame trends are up. And if we break this trend line, let's say there's a 4 hour demand zone there, I actually would prefer that. I prefer getting in long due to the fact that we have a weekly and a daily trend. So that'd be a great buying opportunity as well on the British pound. Alrighty, on to the forecast for the USDCAD. And if you guys have not checked out my Stoic Trading Psychology podcast, you guys have to check it out. I have to make a new episode soon. I haven't done one in a while, but there's tons of episodes. It's anywhere you get your podcasts. I also made a YouTube channel as well. So if you guys need help on your trading psychology, that's definitely the right place to be. Let me know what you guys think of the podcast in the comments down below as well. So as far as the USDCAD goes, I'm not going to zoom in, but you can see on the weekly and on the daily time frame, we have two nice trend lines and trends to the downside. So it is bearish overall, in my opinion. We did have a 1 hour trend line to the upside here. That was very quickly removed as we went to test it. A lot of my trend lines will work, but look at the manipulation we've seen here. Basically down and then straight back up. We do have a supply and control right now at 1.367. I'm not in love with the approach into the zone. I mean, I don't really consider that, but it's looking pretty bullish, in my opinion, to end the week. But at the end of the day, it is a decent supply. The basing is decent. The move away is somewhat good. I think we could maybe see a move off of the zone, especially considering the fact that we have a daily and a weekly trend to the downside. I'm just kind of worried about the manipulation we've been seeing. So I know this trade has kind of already been triggered, if maybe for the members. At the time of recording this, is just happens to be where the zone is. So at this point, we could be looking for 5-minute time frame shorts coming off of this 1 hour area of supply. And if you are bullish the USDCAD, if we do remove that supply, we're going to have a decent demand zone here maybe. And if we get a pullback down that 1 hour zone, I think it could be good for maybe a trade to the upside. Because what we could be seeing take place here is maybe a pullback up to this weekly supply at 1.39. That's what I thought we were going to get there, and obviously we did not. Let me just go ahead and draw some liquidity here. If I can get my drawing tool out. So we have some sort of resistance here. If we do pull up, I would like to see a reaction off resistance. Then I think that weekly supply could actually hold even better. So we are bearish based off of the trends on the USDCAD, on the weekly and the daily. For now, it's all going to revolve around this 1 hour supply. Again, you could be looking for day trading shorts in there. And if the zone gets removed, any demand zone there could be good for maybe a quick, very aggressive long trade due to the fact that we have a daily and a weekly trend to the downside. All right, on to the forecast for the Aussie US dollar. We didn't remove this weekly zone last week due to, again, reasons I'm not going to get into here, but the weekly supply was removed this week, in my opinion. And the good news is we actually have a weekly demand zone down below. That's a very good looking zone, in my opinion. I'm going to draw it like this. It maybe is a little bit big. Maybe I'm just going to tighten up just a little bit here at 0.674. I like this weekly zone. Again, I don't trade at the weekly zone. That's a massive zone. So if price does come back to here, we will be looking for H4 or H1 confirmation to get a long trade out of it. And that's just a great example of using multiple time frame analysis, trading inside a higher time frame area of demand. So I welcome a pullback on the Aussie. I'm really not seeing any evidence to suggest that we are getting that pullback, because again, the daily trend's looking really strong on the bottom left of your screen there. And as far as trading the Aussie US dollar goes now, we do have a couple of options. Right now we have a nice 4 hour trend line that's holding, and currently kind of breaking. Not my favorite break though. We're just going to keep this I want to see what takes place on Sunday night there to see if we can really close above it. It's technically still holding. I personally think we are going to be breaking it due to the fact that the daily trend is up and the weekly chart is looking really, really strong. So how do we go about and trade the Aussie right now? We can see we caught this 1 hour trade right here. Definitely a way bigger move than expected. I was telling you guys last week in last week's weekly Forex forecast that the supply zone above is much better at 0.706. Again, both of these zones were called out ahead of time in last week's weekly Forex forecast, as you can see on the screen right now. So unlike your favorite guru, I don't just show P&L and fake broker statements and all that crap. I show real trades before they take place with video evidence, because I can't go back and edit last week's forecast. It's just not possible. So I'm calling out these trades before, guys. I think that's worth a like, maybe a subscription if you're not subscribed yet. Anyways, supply zone above, it's still fresh. 2 moves off of this supply. I think we could see the better move off of the 1 hour supply above, still at 0.706. So I'd be waiting for that supply to be hit. If you were bullish on the Aussie and you think we're going to continue to go up, that's fine. We want to just wait for these supply zones to be removed. And if there's a demand zone here, it'd be a very nice trading setup, right? Especially since, this supply is proven. So if that supply gets removed, any demand there is going to be pretty good, in my opinion, on the Aussie. So decent 1 hour supply zone above for shorts. And if you're bullish, we just want to wait for those supply zones to be removed and continue to look for longs off of the demand zones that remove them. Alrighty, on to the USD Swiss forecast. So we just removed a very old weekly area of demand, which is great. I love when we get new weekly zones formed because they're just kind of rare, right? It takes so long to form. I will definitely admit, though, we are so hyper extended to the downside, but a pullback up to this weekly supply could be good for lower time frame shorts. So that's something we will be monitoring over the next couple months there to see if we can get a pullback up to that daily, up to that weekly supply. More importantly, the nearest supply is this daily chart, and I like it. Drop, base, drop, nice explosive move away. I like the basing. That's where I think we could be headed, although it looks like we are currently struggling to get there. Let me show you guys the lower. So again, that daily supply could be good for lower time frame shorts. The 4-hour chart and the 1-hour chart are so confusing right now. I personally stayed away from both of these zones because they were both mediocre at best. I pointed out this 4-hour zone to the members. Somewhat of a move off of it. I personally stayed away from it. It's just, yeah, the move away is decent, but we pulled back so quick. I would have liked to have seen a bigger imbalance, then a pullback might have been better. So at this point, you could be looking for longs on a 15-minute chart as long as this demand zone is holding. But look, I mean, we've seen one reaction, two, coming back in for a third touch. It's looking, I don't know, that's the worst three I've ever seen, but probably one of the worst situations you can get off of a zone. But at the end of the day, the 4-hour demand's in control. If you want to look for longs, I would be doing it on a 15-minute chart. If you want to play it safe, we do have a 1-hour supply zone here as well, which I did also point out to the members. I believe one of them got a trade off of it. I don't know, maybe you can let me know in the comments down below. I thought I saw somebody get a trade off of this, maybe a break-even trade. It was just another zone I avoided. The basing was huge. The move away was good, but just a quick return. I also avoided the zone. But what I like about it is the fact that we are currently kind of ranging, and the fact that this supply is holding shows that there is some supply here. So if we do get this zone removed, any demand there is going to be a pretty powerful demand zone, in my opinion. So that's how I'd be playing it. I personally would rather be getting in long due to the fact that I think we will be pushing up to that daily supply. So if we do get this zone removed, any demand there is going to be our trading setup, in my opinion, the higher odds one. Hopefully we can get a good zone formed, and that's basically what that is the 4-hour demand zone is a little bit not great. So usually we look for 15-minute confirmation, which you can, but since it's not great, 1-hour confirmation is actually even better. It's even more strength, in my opinion. So we're basically, me personally, I'm just waiting for the supply to be removed and hopefully giving us with a nice 1-hour demand zone setup on the USD Swiss to trade up to the daily supply and then look to take profit and maybe switch to a short trade. Alrighty, on to the forecast for crude oil. A little bit of a long-term approach, but I just want to say I am bearish on oil due to the fact that we have a weekly trend to the downside and we have clear liquidity down below and a nice weekly zone at 53.85. If you've been following my channel for a while, I've been talking about that weekly zone. I think it's very probable that we do get a reaction off of that weekly zone. And if it blasts through, whatever, I'll just take my loss. It's all good. Well, I will be looking for lower time frame confirmation, but I think we will be headed lower on oil due to those reasons. I mean, I cannot deny the strength of oil. We've seen a trend line break. But what do you notice? In my opinion, there's no trend line here. This is not a very sustainable move. If we can get a nice pullback, a nice little valley, break the high, okay, that's a sustainable trend. This is not too sustainable, in my opinion. On the lower time frames, on the 4-hour chart, and it's not a lower time frame, but it is to me because I'm a swing trader. Look at this basing out. We're just going sideways. It's just not a great looking chart. I was hoping we get a pullback down to this 4-hour zone. It's kind of old now, so if we do, I want to see another reaction off of this support, showing me that there is stop losses here. Then I think we could actually see a quick 1-to-1, 2-to-1 trade off of that zone at 58.32. In the meantime, there is evidence to suggest that we could be pulling back on oil. Why? Well, because we have a 1-hour trend line to the downside. So you can see our trend line is drawn from here to here. This is a perfect reaction off of our perfectly drawn trend line. This ain't no Tory Trades trend line here. This is a properly drawn trend line. A little stab there. Sorry. I'm only doing that because somebody left a comment a couple weeks ago. He was just joking around. I'm just kind of playing on the joke. But that is our reaction off of the trend line. And as far as a channel goes, let's pull up the channel tool. If I can just click on it perfectly there. I mean, we are at a great point to look for shorts. This is the channel tool. And we are above that 50% mark. So in my opinion, looking for shorts on a 5-minute time frame makes total sense to me due to the fact that we have that trend line being respected. And look, if the trend line breaks and we have a 1-hour demand zone there, that could be a trading setup. But for now, we have to go with this trend and look for shorts on a 5-minute time frame. And that's really about it. That's all I'm really seeing right now on crude oil. Alrighty, on to the forecast for Bitcoin. Crazy day on Bitcoin, crazy couple days here on Bitcoin. And if you guys want to talk to me, hit me up on Instagram, FX Telepath on Instagram. Send me a message, say, hey Kev, love the forecast, what's up? I will pretty much respond to everybody unless it's like a scam. I've been talking about this demand zone on Bitcoin at 71,002. And more importantly, so we did blast through the zone here. I'm not going to call it removed. But more importantly, these dotted lines is a monthly demand. So I'm pretty sure I've been telling you guys, we could see this weekly zone break, but even if it does, that's fine because we have a monthly demand in control, and it's holding beautifully right now. So this liquidity was clearly targeted. Everybody was probably seeing, oh, look, support, and they all got wrecked, especially if they're trading on margin here. So nice. I mean, in my opinion, demand's in control. I personally think longs are much, much preferred on Bitcoin here. Obviously, it's a little bit of a difficult chart to read. We have just been falling off of a cliff here. I don't really see any buying opportunities. We do have a little hidden drop-based drop supply at 81,176. It's kind of an older zone at this point. We have monthly demand, weekly demand in control. So this is a pretty low odds trading situation. I would have preferred the pullback sooner than later. So if we do pull up to this zone now, we could be looking for shorts, but again, I'd be extremely aggressive with trade management, looking for one-to-one. Don't get greedy in a zone like this, guys. Trust me. More importantly, if it does get removed, any demand there is going to be a potential nice long setup. And the 1 hour chart is actually setting up nicely, potentially, because we do have a 1 hour trend line to the downside. We did get a little overextended, but I'm going to keep the trend line to the downside. It's very borderline to me. But I want to see what removes this trend line, because if that trend line is removed, this 1 hour demand zone setup, pretty aggressive. But the fact that we have a monthly and weekly demand zone in control makes me prefer longs here on Bitcoin. So again, if that trend line gets removed, any demand there is going to be a very nice potential trading setup here on Bitcoin. Me personally, I prefer the 4 hour chart, but really the only thing we have close to price is this 1 hour trend line. So that's kind of all we have to go with right now. So again, bullish on Bitcoin, monthly demand in control, weekly demand in control. We just got to wait for some demand zones to form on the 4 hour and the 1 hour time frame. If you guys want access to my full-length forecast, join the Diamond membership where you will have access to that, as well as my daily market forecast, the full course supply and demand PDF, and much, much more. Make sure you guys subscribe so you can catch next week's forecast as well. And I always appreciate a like. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.